In the second damaging departure for the government in the space of a week, the Prime Minister was forced to sack his US Ambassador, Peter Mandelson, over his friendship with Jeffrey and Epstein, and facing questions as to why he was appointed in the first place.
Joining us now from Edinburgh is Scottish Secretary Douglas Alexander, who previously referred to Lord Mandelson as a serious man for serious times. Well, things are certainly serious, aren't they, Mr. Alexander? Do you still stand by that statement, which certainly says, it appears to say that you thought he was the right man for the job?
So let me say at the outset, Kate, good morning. If the first words out of my mouth this morning, frankly, need to be a recognition that all of us, I'm sure GMB viewers, myself, felt revulsion and incredulity at what we saw in those emails. So if we had known then what is now known, of course Peter Mandelson should not have been appointed. But the truth is the Prime Minister reached a judgment as to where the British national interest lay when we were dealing with a very unconventional Trump administration, and his judgment was that we should appoint an unconventional ambassador. And the observable facts over the last few months are that the Prime Minister has established a strong working relationship with Donald Trump. We've done the first trade deal of any country in the world with the Trump administration, and we continue to be the partner of choice of the United States on a wide range of security matters, not least the very challenging situation in Ukraine. So, of course, we did not know then what is now known, but the fact is in recent months we have seen the United Kingdom and the United States work effectively together.
Didn't know then what you know now. Just to be clear, this man, Lord Mandelson, was appointed in circumstances when in 2023, just so our viewers understand, and no doubt you'll be aware, Mandelson wasn't sacked for staying at Epstein's New York home when Epstein was in prison for a sex offence. On top of that, this was known in 2023, before he was appointed. He visited Epstein in Paris in 2010 and 2011. You talk about accountability and that sort of thing, but the only time, despite the Prime Minister expressing clear confidence in him, was when the emails became public. Help us understand, aren't you ashamed, surely? You're no doubt a dad and somebody in a position of authority, that this man was appointed in circumstances where basic vetting would have shown that Mandelson had not just a close relationship, but a deeply close one.
So I am a dad, but you don't need to be a dad to be horrified by the heinous crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. It is right, you're right to recognise, a matter of record, that there was an association between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein stretching back a number of years. Peter Mandelson had expressed regret for that. And you're also right that there was a vetting process that was undertaken.
Sorry to interrupt. The question is,
the
only question is this a question of vetting or leadership? Here's the thing. If the Prime Minister knew, if he was aware through the security services of this deep personal relationship, and I'm going to repeat it because it bears repetition, he stayed in his home, in Epstein's home, at the time he was in prison. If he was aware of that, don't you think that is an extreme error, not just of judgment, but it questions the very core of whether or not Keir Starmer is an appropriate Prime Minister?
So respectfully, neither you nor I know what was contained within that vetting process. It is kept apart from ministers. It was overseen at departmental level, I understand, by the Foreign Office, because this was a diplomatic appointment, albeit it was a political appointee. That process is led by an agency within the Cabinet Office. But you're absolutely right. There was a judgment reached by the Prime Minister in the round that in the particular circumstances of an incoming Trump administration, the expertise that Peter Mandelson brought as a former EU Trade Minister, as a former British business minister, would serve the interests of the United Kingdom well.
I'm sorry, this just doesn't cut the mustard, because the Prime Minister said at Prime Minister's questions that he had full confidence in Peter Mandelson. Now, regardless of what happened at the vetting, he was certainly aware of all of the things that I've set out here, that he had a close relationship with Epstein, that he stayed in his house, that he continued to have contact with him, to say the very least. It wasn't until the embarrassing details of the emails came out that he decided to sack him. Again, that's not an error of vetting. That's an error, to say the very least, of judgment. This was a known sex trafficker, a paedophile and a sex offender.
There is a lot more than embarrassing details in those emails, and those emails changed everything. What emerged was, if you like, not only Peter Mandelson suggesting that there was a wrongful conviction initially for Jeffrey Epstein, that he should be seeking early release from prison, there was specific information contained within those emails that reached the Prime Minister's desk for the first time when they were published. They reached the Prime Minister's desk on Wednesday night, and on Thursday morning, Peter Mandelson was dismissed as Britain's ambassador in Washington.
So what is this government going to do now? Because we've had, you know, numerous allegations of fraud for ministers that had to go. The housing minister didn't pay enough stamp duty. We've had Minister for Homelessness that went because there was an issue about whether they made somebody effectively kick them out of their house against rules and resold the house. It's going to feel like people watching that we have it's the same old politicians. The campaign slogan of cleaning up government is so up in flames now. What is this government going to do? Who is going to be the next US ambassador just before Donald Trump comes to visit? Where are we going to find people that restore faith? And can Sir Keir Starmer survive it?
OK, so let me try and deal with each of those questions. James Roscoe, the deputy in Washington, is now the acting ambassador. He's a very talented and experienced diplomat, so that relationship is in a strong place. In relation to your broader point, though, listen, in every government, issues like this emerge. The question is, how do you deal with these issues when they emerge? And frankly, in different circumstances, but just in one week after another, Angela Rayner and Peter Mandelson have been judged by the Prime Minister to fall below the very standards that he demands. And in a matter of hours, both Peter Mandelson and Angela Rayner have left public service. Now, that, frankly, is a very different approach than sometimes has been taken by our predecessors, but Keir Starmer takes an evidence-based approach. When the evidence emerged in relation to Angela Rayner last week, Angela Rayner left the government. When the evidence of those emails emerged on Wednesday evening, the Prime Minister accepted and dismissed the British ambassador to Washington on Thursday morning. So I get it. These are headlines that nobody, not your viewers, not government ministers, no doubt not Downing Street, wanted to see. But our challenge when these issues emerge is to make sure they are dealt with quickly, according to due process, and on the basis of evidence. That is what has happened in the case of Peter Mandelson. That's what's happened in the case of Angela Rayner. The responsibility of government ministers is to get on with the job, whether here in Scotland, delivering defence jobs, whether Wes Streeting cutting waiting times. That's the real work of government, which, despite the horrible headlines, we will be getting on with.
It's not just horrible headlines, though, is there? Because it is about how it's been dealt with. And unfortunately, for this Labour government, the Prime Minister's ability to deal with it is being called into question. And it must be, at the very least, distracting from delivering on election promises.
Well, I can assure you it's not distracting the work of the incoming cabinet. We're getting on with the job. But I totally understand there are many backbench colleagues, indeed ministers, who will be troubled and concerned that in the second week we've now had a second resignation. You don't get to choose the circumstances that confront you when you're the Prime Minister, or indeed you're a serving government minister.
You're in charge of appointing the people. This is not a hurricane. You know, this is not a pandemic. This is choices of ministers and, you know, senior figures like the that have been chosen to do the job. That is the trouble, I think, for this government, that actually you do get to choose.
So take the example of Angela Rayner, Kate. Take that example. Keir Starmer, when he appointed her Deputy Prime Minister, had no idea that she was subsequently going to buy a property in Brighton or Hove or wherever it was and find herself inadvertently underpaying stamp duty. These issues emerge while people are in government. The responsibility of the Prime Minister is to maintain what he undertook to do, which is to maintain high standards in public life, and where the evidence is produced, be willing to act. And alas, that's what he's had to do again this week.
Well, thank you very much, Douglas.
Thank you.
Alexander, no doubt questions remain about what the Prime Minister did or did not know.